Hello, everyone. We've been thinking about different things that we used to do that people should know about, or at least we think certain things should be explained. And simple things. And one, of course, is making music and using the rattle. We had a recent concert where we used a bird song that I had used earlier in a class, and I was going to explain to people why I did that, and I guess I'm explaining it now to you. Around 1900, there were scholars studying the Indians, archaeologists and anthropologists. There was a group who came down from the Pomona College. At least the leader was from there, and he, Burroughs was his name. He was a plant specialist, and I guess it was rather a fun thing to do for them to get together. I'm just thinking, imagining that when they would see their neighbors, that is, I should say, they should see the people that they were studying sing their songs. They became fans of it, and so much so that they started learning the songs just casually. And there was one song that they took with them, and that was the subject of a song we used this year in our concert. It was a bird song, and I was wondering why. This was not a question about using other people's music. I was never thought about, whether it would be a problem. Should you ask the people first? That sort of thing, And it was just natural for them to latch on to one song, and it became one of the school songs at Pomona College. And I found out about that later, which is another story. But why I bring it up now is that we were thinking during this time of separateness, isolation, we wonder about people and things, and I guess everyone doesn't do that, but it happens to some of us, and I'm one of those, wondering just how much of what we do today do people like or are interested in, having to do with our culture. And so I thought just a simple visit today would be handy, and I brought some rattles that were in a home that came from different sources. The rattle we're talking about is the gourd rattle, and this happens to be one that was put together later. The maker, that is the owner, never played it. It was my dad. He selected the gourd and the handle, the wood for the handle, and I guess gathered the seeds. The date palm seeds were used and are still used. And that's what makes the sound that you hear. And of course, different players, different makers are going to have their own style, their own taste. All musicians do by ear. This sound, maybe a few more seeds, that sort of thing. And I just brought, and I don't know where this came from actually, and I can't tell you what is striking the inside of this shell, and I don't know how it came to me. This, though, I bought from one of our visitors from Arizona. I can't think of the fellow's name now, but there was a group of people from the different reservations, and even from Arizona, taking a class that we had. It was a special class on pottery, I think. And one of the artists also had rattles that he made, and I latched on to this one. And I don't know that he used the seeds that we use to make that sound. It doesn't sound like it. And this came from unknown also. This is a type of rattle that was used among our people for different songs. I don't know for the Serranos whether this was used for any of the songs that we sang. I think we used it, but I don't know, so I don't play it. It was more or less a gift, and I don't know what is making it sound. Could be rocks, you know. But our neighbors to the south, of course, use the turtle shell rattle for most of their songs, the Samuel. And this, again, is I think made by an artist, but it's closer to our style. But I can't tell you the background of it, but it was attractive to become part of our, I think we have it around here. Maybe it was from home, I'm not sure. Home being a place where stuff is collected on in different places. Well, this has I know the story of this rattle because it was, parts of it were gathered by my father, and even the seeds, the handle, the wood for the handle, and the gourd itself. And it was cut the way it is. And I found that out later. And my stepmother had it and presented it to me as a gift. And it was already put together. And she explained that she gave it to one of her nephews, who did a great job. And he told me that he had to go all the way through the gourd and attach it to the top. Otherwise, there was not enough lip at this end of the rattle. As this one, there's enough for the glue to hold it, and the top one separate. So this is the reason why it goes through, and is how it ended up. And they presented it, and I've been using it whenever I have occasion. I was given a rattle. My cousin and I, a year apart, we were living on the res at the time, Morongo Reservation. And one morning, my grandfather came and told my mother something, and then he left me, came back, and my cousin was present. So we had to go fetch him. Pete was my grandfather's name. And he presented us with these rattles. He had painted it red, and it did have the date palm seeds and the palm seeds. But I didn't see him ever put a rattle together. We were always climbing around and looking at his things. He lived in a little place that he made and would collect things on whatever was available. We had a stove, an old cook stove that was there for him to put things on. And it was actually his studio to make things and work on things. And so he had several rattles on display. For us, they were on display. And I recall seeing metal cans, milk cans, and we would go and fiddle with him when we had a chance. He may have seen us do that, I don't know. But the story is very important because he presented them to us at that age. We were like 10 years old, and neither of us had any music. We weren't musical. That is, my cousin and I. And my mother didn't explain. She may have told us at the time, but it didn't stick. I didn't remember. But later on, when everyone was gone, all my relatives, except my Aunt Dot, and she was saying, you know, now people, everyone plays a rattle, and they're all playing together the bird songs. And she said that wasn't our way. It's our way today. But then she said that the leader had to give the signals. That the signal that the tune is going to change and to go up. Or it could be for some other reason also, that the dancers are attuned to what the singers are doing, singers and players. Everyone in the culture knows what is happening as the play goes on. The play being, when we gathered, there was always singing for celebrations, and there were ceremonies, special ceremonies, that didn't always use a certain rattle, that is the gourd rattle, that we use for bird songs today. So early, I don't know that bird songs were sung with the gourd rattle, but it came to be. But so there's much unknown at this time. There may be someone still living who someone in their family may have told them bits of history and culture, practice, what we did at different times, different occasions. But I experienced attending the different wakes, that is ceremony for funerals. And so the people would sing all night. That is, the singers would sing all night. The people would stay or leave, and many would stay up all night. And the kids always went home. But I recall one of my, I don't think she was a relative, a grandma and her granddaughter, and they would always stay. And the grandma always had a bidding for her granddaughter, and I recall that. And I believe she's still living here in Banning. Rosemary is her name, and Miriam Sana, which her grandmother. We're always attending those gatherings. Apart from that, the bird singing gatherings would spring up anytime people were celebrating, and the favorite singers would be asked to play or sing and play and dance. Otherwise, you would go to a neighboring tribe and see if someone would come. And indeed, my grandpa Pete, on a couple of occasions I recall that San Manuel folks would send their young men over. They had a car, so it's like 40 miles or so from where we live, and they would come and have a meeting with my grandpa, and then I guess they were making a date for the next week or whenever it was. Then they would come and take him away and overnight, and then they'd bring him back in the morning. And I recall seeing that at least twice. But before he would go and sing for them bird songs. That's why they came to get him to sing bird songs. He would practice and tune up, as we would say, going over certain songs that he wanted to sing, or was wondering about. In any case, I heard him sing in the house with the rattle, and there was no explanation or anything. He just came to practice, as I recall. Again, maybe he explained to my sister, who was 5 years my older than I, and she may have heard him explain at that time. But so we had it in our family to sing, and so my mother knew all the songs. I should say it seemed like she knew all of the songs, because she would explain different things at different times about what songs were being sung or going to be sung, and when she would have special visitor especially in this story, Lisanio from Rincon was her guardian at St. Boniface. My mother was the youngest person on campus at that time, and I guess Valana was one of the elders and of the kids. they were of school age and boarding there at St. Boniface. I'm sorry, it's the other school.
Sherman.
I can almost hear it. Sherman Institute. Yeah, I don't know why I would forget that, but I never attended there, so I guess that might be the reason. My mother would tell stories about that school and her friend who looked after her, and indeed they became good friends through the years, and would always send cards. And when they visited, and especially during a special occasion like a week, her brothers, her family sang, and she would sing with them, but the women always sat behind the men. The men sat in front and sang. And they used the gourd, not the gourd rattle, but the turtle shell rattle, layered 2 or 3, and that was their special accompaniment. They had always one person who handled that, and in this case it was the younger brother, one of the younger brothers of Valana, and the older brother that June and I had the occasion to meet and to talk and visit and interview at one time in the 1970s, I guess it was, or early 80s. We made a trip down there to see them. Well, I'm getting ahead in my story. The rattle itself is the instrument to accompany singing in the Southland and maybe farther up the coast. Well, other tribes use it, but the drum comes into play as we go north, the hand drum, and so that and different types of rattles. The clapper stick is used; they call it rattle to accompany their songs. The seniors, I'm sorry, the ocean people, and I can't think of their... The Chumash. I use the clapper stick, and we've had friends share their songs with us here at the center. And maybe when we start working again, getting things together, we'll invite them to come and present their song and dance and stories, and that's always a great time. Well, this rattle then became very important as time went on, but the fact that we were given rattles at the time was important, according to Aunt Dot. Now, Aunt Dot was the one who filled me in years later when we were talking about bird singing and how she said everyone plays, and it's can be confusing if they don't practice a lot together and are able to hold it together. And the main thing was to have that leader lead the songs and for every the everything done was expected. No learning at this time by singers, except those who would come and sit in aside the singers and sing with them, but they wouldn't play their own rattle. It was one person's duty. His job was to handle that part. And so I can't tell you much about the other tribes, their practice, like the Lasagna. I've seen them, and we really appreciate what they've been able to do to keep together their songs and learning them, and they're always well represented. And the Cahuilla as well. It came a time when things were dying out, and one of my cousins, said when he came back from the service, there was hardly anyone singing, and so he was talking to the senior singer in Palm Springs, the Howland Potential, who said, "Come and sing. We'll sing together. Come down and you can sing." And so he was invited to join and continue the songs. And I guess he was talking about the wake songs and all the other songs. But my cousin was mainly interested in the bird songs, and he was going to do that, but he never did. But luckily for us, two brothers went to Joe and said, "We want to learn our songs." They had experienced on another reservation where younger men came out and sang for the people, for the guests, and they felt so in need of and they had the need to do that with their songs. So that was how that happened, how they brought the songs back. And that's it was just meant to be that way, I guess. But things changed as far as learning. At that time, I think the cassette recorder was in play, and Joe gave the boys recordings of his singing, and so they could put it in their truck and listen to him anytime, all the time, until they learned the songs. And so they represented and carried the bird songs on their shoulders. Now the older generation, my uncle, my cousin, my two cousins, Desert Cahuilla and Mount Cahuilla, they knew their songs, and they would make comments about the boys singing the bird songs. So we had the occasion to have a person who is on the California Arts Council, and he said we can get some money, some help from the Art Council, and have Master Apprentice set up for the desert and the pass, and so that's what we did. And I became one of the students along with others, and we would gather and sing. And so that's one of the reasons for needing a rattle of my own. And at that time, I was playing a rattle made by a past Cahuilla singer, and I dropped it at one time and it cracked. So I'm very careful now with these rattles. Now, getting back to that, what my aunt was telling me, she said the people the singers were to sing in front of people for the community. They were chosen by the Paha, and so there were certain families that were already ready to go. They were expected to sing. So, but not everyone had that opportunity. But you could show your talent, your desire to sing, and so you would sing along when they sang, and sooner or later you might be asked to join, to use your rattle, and I think there was a lot more to it. I think it could be that the elders would get together, and as they would every weekend, they'd come to Banning, and the men would gather behind James Bakery and sit there, and you could hear them joking and talking, and I never heard them sing, but I guess later on when the sun went down, they would go back and home and sing. So that we had certain things that we wanted to keep alive, and of course we can't resort to having one person leading the whole group, I don't think, because the practice now is for everyone to play, and they all get better, of course, and I've heard some very fine singing and playing and dancing in the Southland, in the desert, and here at Morongo, and also Salmon Well. So it's not going away, our carrying on of the bird songs. The bird songs actually have information, and they tell a story, and not everyone knows about that. And we have our story about it that we shared among the Serranos, and I don't know that others did the same. And maybe that's the next step, is to compare notes. And the main thing was that we were given these songs by our Creator, and were used for our history, as far as I can see, to know who we are, who we were, where we came from, and to never lose your language, our language, and the songs. Now the songs are in a special case story, because there are many songs, but they're in groups for certain occasions. There are occasional songs used for special purposes, and they're not sung otherwise. And so that's the reason why we don't hear those songs anymore, because no one knows them. My mother knew them, but she decided it was time for them to go. And the bird songs are another story, because there were people singing them today and keeping them alive. And the stories themselves, who knows what at this time. And what I have to tell about them may be different from what someone else says, and it's so far it's a family story, and there'll be another occasion to talk about what the songs are saying, and look forward to that time. And I don't sing anymore. My throat has had its problem when I had a small operation. They must have put an air tube down my throat or something. And that's why I have a gravelly voice when I talk, and when I sing, it's don't sing, please. A lot to say a little. That's what I did today for this special occasion. Thank you.